Hello, everyone. Welcome to Retire with Style. This is Alex, and I'm here with my trusted companion, Wade Fa. Wade, thank you for joining us today. So happy to have you.
Absolutely. Is that your Terry Gross from NPR impersonation? Yeah,
Well,
it's very soothing.
all things considered, that is a good comeback. No. I
You
was
can
just trying
take
to be
over for
more
Delilah on the Light FM stations.
the quiet storm. No. I was trying to center myself. And then I realized after the first two words, I was like, man, sounds kind of odd. Let me go with it and see what Wade says. But today thank you for joining, and we'll be continuing with our Q&A session, which was, I would think, a rousing success. Well, it depends on our answers, I guess, but based on the questions, it's been
Yeah.
a great success. I think it's given us a lot of fuel for future episodes, and part of the content pieces that we can create throughout the year. Wade, thoughts?
Yeah, and like I was saying in the past episode, it's always great to get these questions because it helps us understand better like where the concerns are, where we might be not explaining something the way we thought we were, or just new ideas, new some of the times I learn new material because I get a question I don't know the answer to and have to look it up. And so it's great to hear your questions. And we've probably got another few episodes still on just answering questions that came in
Yeah.
for that live Q&A.
And Wade, how many times do you learn something just by listening to my answers as well?
Well, I'd have to look back and see if I could find an example.
I'm gonna need the chapstick again. Oh, and please write in. We had a little friendly debate. It's winter, right? And I'm in the camp where I put like a one of these chapstick things in every pocket that I have. Obviously, when you wash your clothes, you take them out, etc. Because I lose so many of them, and I just put them in everyone, and that is my sort of how I soothe that anxiety of being out of pocket without chapstick. Wade, what do you do? It's just completely the
Well, and
opposite.
you were saying it was your OCD that you
Yeah,
need
my
10
OCD.
chapsticks at a time. And to the extent I have any OCD, it's more, I don't want to be using more than one at a time. I'd want to make sure I use one down entirely before opening a new one. So I don't know. It's like a different version of OCD.
Well, I'm more profligate, I guess. You're
I'm
saving the
more,
world. You're
I'm a
saving the
more
world.
miserly,
No,
economical
no, no. You're
approach,
just probably efficient.
not wasting chapstick.
It's just I lose so many of them. Same thing with like gloves. I just put gloves in like a couple of main jackets that I use, and off we go. So wait, did I heard Santa came this morning to your house and dropped something off?
Yes, I had a
What
very
happened?
nice gift that arrived overnight. I've not opened the package yet, but I know what's in it. It's from you, and it's a new next generation, next step. It's a pull-up bar that I'm going to have to figure out how to install and start doing pull-ups.
There we go for you and Joseph. You and Joseph.
Yes.
We have we're doing a little challenge within the Risa company behind the scenes where we're going to see if we can double up our pull up counts. So Wade, where do you think you're by right now?
Well, the last time I was at a playground at the park and just tried, I did get 3 pull-ups in without effort. I didn't try to do a fourth one, but I don't know. I haven't. It's probably been 6 months since I did a pull-up.
Oh,
So
so it
about
was. Did you have your shirt on when you did them, or did you take off your shirt in the kids' playground, do a couple of
fully
pull-ups,
dressed.
and then you're escorted out of the
Yeah, that's right.
out of the
A lot of time
property?
hanging out at children's playgrounds. Doing pulls.
No, I think
And I
I'm
had a
by.
child with me at the time, so that was a good.
Okay, good. I thank you for throwing that in there, by the way.
I had a legitimate reason to be there.
No, I think I did. No, I just did it right now before we started, just to see what it would be. I'm at 7, so I'm a legit
Okay,
7 right now.
wow.
No kipping. We'll see if we can double that up by, when did Trevor say? End of February.
That's what he was saying.
Okay, there we go. So we'll do that. And just so I have you on record, push-ups. What are we gonna commit to?
Yeah. Still, the dream is to do 100 a day. Right now it's more like 15 or 20 a day, but we'll see. We'll
We'll
work our
see.
way back up.
There we go. What part of we are we talking about here? You and
Myself.
me, or okay.
You're already doing it. So.
The royal we. There we go. All right, so off we go. It's to a healthy 2024, everyone. And now for your financial health, we have some questions du jour.
Yeah.
You want to rip the first one off?
Sure. And so in this episode, they're all different random topics still, but because this was actually what we were originally planning to use for the live session.
Some sandbagged with questions that were live.
In subsequent episodes, we may have more theme-based questions where we put together on the same theme. But yeah, the first one kind of from the grab bag here.
But real quick, because you said, you got to remember, we have day jobs, so we just literally look at these. There's not a lot of prep, so I don't know how much time we're going to be able to organize them, but we'll try.
No, I did that yesterday.
No, but I mean in topics.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. But yeah, the first one is kind of a withdrawal rate question. It's one of the themes that we hear about. So I have $10 million of liquid assets. Now that's not me personally. And a fully paid home.
You have more, buddy.
Okay, so $10 million portfolio and a fully paid home. Plan to retire in 5 years, and we'll probably save an additional $1.5 million before that time. We're going to be paying $500,000 for college educations. So with all that, they project to get at retirement without any investment growth, with $11 million without any investment growth. Currently spending $300,000 a year. What should our expected spend be in retirement, assuming we don't have any other income other than Social Security?
Well, there are a lot of simplifying assumptions we're going to have to make here, because we obviously don't know the life story, or what their like streaming bundle looks like and stuff like that. You want to maybe talk about some of the simplifying assumptions we're going to have to make?
Well, one thing we don't know is if that $300,000 included tax payments or not. Because if that's kind of net of taxes, you do have to add any tax payments on top of that. But simply, they shouldn't have any problem continuing to spend $300,000 a year, even without any investment growth. The $300,000 divided by by 11 million is a 2.7% withdrawal rate, which where interest rates are right now is. In past years, when interest rates were incredibly low, that might be a better guess of what a good withdrawal rate would be. But in today's interest rate environment, that's a pretty conservative withdrawal rate. And that's not even counting the Social Security yet. So with Social Security also added on that, you can spend even more. We just don't know whether or not we also have to add taxes on top of that, which could be the only kind of constraint there. But if they want to spend more than $300,000, they probably have some flexibility to do so.
First, I'd like to add a couple of just things to think about here. Are you interested in adoption? Because I think we can do a reverse thing here. No,
air.
Yeah, exactly. No, first off, congratulations. It's a good problem to have, obviously. So mazel tov. That being the case, just some things to think about. Because obviously we don't know your budget, or we don't know your goals, and because you can always spend, as much money as you have, right? So subject to that, that's the caveat. But in terms of thinking about spending in retirement, I think folks, view these spending rules and think, okay, let's just say I need $100,000, and I'm going to have to peg that to inflation every year. So $100,000 first year, $102,000 the second year, et cetera, et cetera. And then they line it out and figure out how much that is. That's not how spending happens in retirement. It's not linearly going up like that. What usually happens is on a real-time spending basis, it goes down. It's not linear on the downside either. But if you look at it after the entire retirement horizon, you're going to see probably a decrease of 2% spending in real returns, in real money. So you don't really need to always spend more and more and more and more and more. It actually goes the other way around. But it doesn't go the other way around linearly. There's that U-shaped curve, that spending smile that we all speak about, where at the beginning of retirement, life is good. Let's go to Morocco. Let's do all these things. then it goes down simply because there's only so much you can do. You get older. You're limited in your physical capacity to do things, and it's just a normal course of things. And then towards the end of life, it spikes up again for healthcare reasons. But you don't need to think about your spending as you're trying to conceptualize this. Is that okay? I need $300,000 because that's what I'm spending down now, and every year I need to get a little COLA bump to that, and I need to project that out for 35 years. That's just not how life works. Again, it's that you see a spending smile. And if you average it out, it goes down about 2% in real terms every year. That being the case, you can think about it in terms of replacement ratios. Now, that's not something that, and Wade, maybe you can talk about this right after, but that's not something I would say hardcore economists love because it doesn't take into account consumption smoothing. But a replacement ratio is if I'm making 100 grand a year, and that's what I'm using to fund my living, and I'm able to slot into a standard of living that I can deal with, then when you retire, because you're not spending as much anymore, you're not saving for retirement. So if you're contributing 15% of your salary in retirement accounts, that's no longer needed, right? If you're at a job where you had to drive to it, you had to have a certain sort of dress wear for it, you're going out to lunch all the time with friends for lunch, those are things that disappear effectively. You also aren't paying as much in taxes because you're not working as much. So that's where the concept of replacement ratio comes in. And what does that look like? It varies. Obviously, results vary, right? I've seen it broken down into quartiles where at the highest quartile, you're looking at about low 80s replacement ratio. At the lowest quartile, you're looking at something where your expenses end up being like 60%, of what your salary was. And so if you want to begin to ballpark it, shoot for some number like that between 60 and 80, run a budget, see how that works. But when you budget it out, know that you don't need this consistent upswing. You may have some milestone goals that are big ticket items, but for the most part, for the everyday, you're actually going to see a decrease over time. Wade?
Yeah, and probably where that's most relevant in this example is just the $500,000 estimated for college. Kind of deduce from that there must be some children living in the household at this point. If they're thinking they're going to pay in full at a private university, maybe that means 2 children. If they're estimating something less per year, maybe they have more than 2 children. But once those children leave the household, you're not going to be spending as much, especially teenagers, as I'm learning, have expensive grocery bills associated with them and so forth. And so if you're spending $300,000 right now, a chunk of that is just paying for expenses related to child rearing that will go away. And that would be a reason why the natural replacement rate is not going to be 100%. So that you may not even necessarily want to spend $300,000. But if there are things you want to spend on so that you want to get that spending up, that's where back to my initial point of you're looking at a 2.7% withdrawal rate right now, and that's completely reasonable in the current market environment. And as Alex was alluding to, the idea of the 4% rule concept assumes you increase spending every year for inflation. If your spending naturally declines in inflation-adjusted terms, that can allow a higher initial withdrawal rate. And so that would make 2.7% even more conservative as an estimate of the initial withdrawal rate in retirement.
All right. Next question.
All right.
Next question is, I've decided to delay claiming Social Security until age 70. If I become deceased prior to age 70, can my wife maximize her survival benefits by claiming her survival benefits until I would have reached age 70?
Yeah, and I think to be completely literal about the way the question is worded, the answer is going to be no. It's not about the wife waiting until you would have reached age 70 or anything like that. The way the survivor benefit's calculated, if you haven't claimed yet, so if you pass away before full retirement age, the survivor benefit would be linked to the value at full retirement age. If you're older than full retirement age and you're planning to claim at 70 and say you pass away at age 68, the survivor benefit would be linked to what you would have gotten if you claimed at the date of death. So basically your age 68 benefit would translate into the survivor benefit. And that's how it's going to be if the survivor claims at their full retirement age. Now, survivor benefits do not have delay credits, so there's no reason to claim a survivor benefit after full retirement age. You don't get those delay credits. That's maybe something that might be a little surprising. But the other interesting aspect of survivor benefits is, unlike spousal benefits, you can file a restricted application where you can say, I just want my own worker benefits. I don't want the survivor benefits yet. Or you can say, I just want my survivor benefit. I don't want my own worker benefit yet. And so what that allows for the survivor in this scenario, if your survivor benefit would be bigger than your own worker benefit, you could claim your worker benefit early, and then when you reach full retirement age, claim that survivor benefit. Because again, there's no point in waiting past 70 to claim the survivor benefit. It's not going to increase beyond your full retirement age.
Can you say that last part again, Wade, so everyone hears that?
Yeah, if the survivor benefit is bigger than your own worker benefit, claim your own benefit early, maybe age 62, unless you're working anyway, and it's all going to be taken away with the earnings test. But then at full retirement age, claim the survivor benefit. And full retirement age is somewhere between about 66 and a half and 67 at this point. It'll be 67 for anyone born in 1960 or later. So no need to wait past full retirement age to claim a survivor benefit. Now, on the other hand, if your own benefit will be larger, you can claim your survivor benefit early as age 60, actually, not 62. And then when you reach 70, then you can claim your own worker benefit and get those delay credits on your own worker benefit. So that would be the way to approach this, but I'm going kind of beyond the original question. The original question is, no, if you're waiting till 70, but you pass away before 70, the survivor benefit is linked to what your benefit would have been at the age you pass away. You can't, there's no way to get further delay credits out of that.
Now, this occurs even if you put your hand on the Bible and tell the Social Security people that I swear I was going to, my husband was going to wait until 70 to claim.
Right. Doesn't matter. They're not gonna listen to you.
All right.
There's nothing that can be done in that scenario.
All right. Next related question here is, the current federal tax rates are scheduled to return to their higher 2017 rates starting in January the 1st, 2026. If Congress does nothing, leave it right there, right? If Congress does nothing, comma, they will revert to the higher 2017 rates. With the current U.S. national debt of approximately $34 trillion, do you think Congress will do nothing and let the rates revert back to the higher 2017 rates to help pay down the national debt? I'll start this off, Wade, and you could sort of add to it here. But I mean, the caveat is, with the current U.S. national debt of approximately $34 trillion and things like that, as a general matter, we don't try to guess what they're going to do based on the debt being so high and things along those lines. Listen, we all can read those numbers. We all understand them. But when making decisions, we just go with what the law says. If the law changes, fine. But I think a better strategy is not to anticipate what's going to happen. I think you'll find out more times than not you were wrong, or things you were directionally right, but not in terms of magnitude, maybe off. There's so many variables that can still play into it that we don't get into that game. I mean, you just take whatever the law says, and that's what you put into your Excel sheets when you're trying to figure out what your next move should be.
Mm-hmm. Wait. Yeah, that's what I use in all my analysis and discussion of tax planning and tax efficient retirement distributions. I assume current law, which is current law in 2026, the tax rates will change. The 12% bracket will become 15%, like it was in 2017 and before. The 22% bracket will become 25%. and so on and so forth. And so that is a more conservative assumption as well, because it's building in this idea that tax rates will be increased, not due to any action, but due to that's what the current law is. And in that regard, it does, if you believe that current law will remain as it is, it creates the opportunity that in 2024 and 2025, there may be some unique chances to do Roth conversions or other strategies to realize taxes before those tax rates are set to increase. Now, there could be other opinions about this. Someone could just say, well, right now, today's tax schedule is what I want to assume forever into the future. You can make an argument for that, but I do agree with Alex that no, you have to go by current law, and current law is we'll have higher tax rates in 2026.
Well, and just to say, you don't have to do anything. That's just what we were. That's just how we play it. You
Yeah.
know, if you consider all of this a big game, that's just how we play it. We don't get into the it's 34 trillion, but if it's a Democratic Congress and president, it'll continue. If it's a Republican, isn't it? It will. It's just my head will explode if I start thinking like that. And 9 times out of 10, it was wasted calories. Next question. You've thoroughly convinced me of the value of lifetime income protection through delayed Social Security and annuities. Good job, Wade. The question I have is how to right size the annuity. Should one aim should one aim to have one able with Social Security to fund all of the projected longevity expenses? Or is it okay to have only a set percentage of those expenses guaranteed and leave the rest to the investment portfolio? I like this question a lot. I'll let you kick it off, Wade.
Yeah, and so the question is really just, do you want to have 100% of your longevity expenses or essential expenses covered with reliable income? And this is probably your more income protection, if we were able to convince you that the value of lifetime income protections, and that's just longevity, because your overall retirement budget is longevity plus lifestyle, essential plus discretionary.
Yeah. By you say longevity, you mean essential expenses.
Essential expenses. Now, with the RISA, we're implicitly assuming that you would seek to cover 100% of your essential expenses with reliable income sources. So that's the basic assumption, but it's not mandatory. And maybe even with a compromise, if the other individual's total returns is to only create reliable income for a portion of the longevity expenses, you definitely have flexibility. But the basic assumption is you would be seeking to cover 100% of your longevity or essential expenses with reliable income, such as pensions, Social Security, annuities, bond letters, and the like.
Yeah. What I would add to that is I think sometimes I don't think the first question, the couple with the first question that they're sitting on $10 million in assets. Look, life is good, right? But and so they could they have a budget that they can spend probably enough to cover their nut. But I think what happens, ideally, you'd like to do 100% because that allows you the flexibility to go all in on the what's it called, on the discretionary, and match it with a more aggressive investment portfolio, and you have the comfort of knowing that you have liquidity because of the income that's coming in. But I think the greater reality is a lot of people just simply can't fund a private pension. Sure, there's Social Security, and that may cover, I'm just making it up, 30% of your essential expenses, but you may not be able to buy an annuity or some sort of contractual income for the remaining 70%, right? And so where are you? What should you strive? What's the next best thing, if you will? You read some articles. There is no standard, like, up from the mountaintop answer. But there are some really good academics that we respect. And, the first one that comes to mind is Moshe Milevsky. He's always shooting at around like 70%, as a good target to hit from a minimum standpoint. So, try to get as much as you can to that, if not. And, the caveat is I don't want this to be a let them eat cake, because some people may not even be able to do that. But if you're thinking about it in those terms, obviously 100, but if that's not realistic and if that's not your style, you should get a healthy slug. I think having 70 is a good number, but again, that's probably telling you more about my baggage than yours. So there it is.
Yeah, and if you've used our funded ratio tool at Retirement Researcher, the idea is you want 100% fundedness for reliable income, but with what Alex is describing, you would actually allow yourself to be underfunded with respect to reliable income, and that's not usually how we explain the income protection.
No, I don't. I'm just no. I'm coming at it from the standpoint of if you don't have enough money, and I think a lot of people just simply don't have enough money to cover it. So at what point is it like, below this number? I think you're really kind of, I would feel uncomfortable myself.
But you're not saying if you don't have enough money, you should just invest it and hope for the best. You're just saying
No,
you
not
don't
at
have
all.
enough money to
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
You're underfunded overall for retirement.
Yeah. I'm not saying buy a lottery ticket if you can't do it and hope for the best. No. I'm just saying realistically, I don't want people to feel bad thinking I can't get to 100%. This is a failure. No, you get what you can. But, I don't think realistically the average American is going to be able to pay 100%, cover 100% of their essential expenses. Do you? I don't see that happening.
Well, I think the average American, probably Social Security would be sufficient to cover essential expenses. But listeners of this podcast may be in a different boat.
We'll leave it at that then. There's some comments there, but
they may be in a yacht.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah. I mean, look, sometimes people say Social Security is enough to cover you. Yeah, because what I said earlier. I mean, there's studies that say, well, for people in the lowest SES bracket, the replacement ratio on Social Security is very high, and so it's easy for people to say, well, they're good, they're covered. Social Security can get them there. But all that's saying is these people are living, they're struggling, but they've struggled all their life. So if they continue to struggle in retirement, they don't know any better. So, hey, we're good. It's kind of, to me, I think that's kind of what, sometimes where those kind of answers get at, which I don't necessarily subscribe to. If we can help, we should in some manner. But again, that deviates from the Q&A. On the next one, you want to read that one? That one's a little long and I'm going to fumble it.
Yeah. And I realized the printout I made cut off the right, maybe 10% of the words, but I should be able to approximate.
I can read it then. No, I have it on my computer. I'll read it.
It's a long one.
All right. I'll read it. I am sold on fixed income annuities, not annuitized in parentheses, as an alternative.
So there's probably fixed index annuities is what they.
Yeah, you're right. Fixed index annuities as an alternate approach to bonds for safe retirement income. I ran this approach by my investment advisor, who works at a major investment non-insurance firm, like a Morgan Stanley or something like that. And they said FIAs are garbage, in quotes. We'll get hit by too many fees, may not lose money, but will give up too much upside, and they rarely deliver what is promised. Is this an example of channel conflict, quote, and then i.e. conflict of interest, putting down products that this salesperson doesn't get commission or investment advisor fees on? Or am I truly missing something, guys? Is there no free lunch? Are there any no-fee fixed annuities that are not garbage and from your unbiased opinion might provide safe retiree income source given the right situation? Love the show and the banter back and forth before you get into the meat of the show. Aha.
Yeah, well, Alex is vindicated.
Yeah, exactly. I would say this is not an example of channel conflict. I think it's an example of stupidity on the part of your advisor. Honestly, that's just lazy thinking. And it's somebody, giving you a half-ass answer because they don't want to do the work. But why don't you get it all, start the momentum and I can add to that.
Yeah, just that expression, giving up too much of the upside. It's important to not think of these as a stock alternative, but rather as a bond alternative. And so, yeah, you're not going to get the full upside of the stock market, but hopefully you're not replacing your stocks with fixed index annuities. It's meant to be thought about more as you're replacing bonds with fixed index annuities. And then whether or not you actually may be getting more, a higher average return than you could through bonds, that's definitely a possibility. In terms of the fees, that's where this advisor may not really kind of understand what they're talking about, because there aren't. I mean, it's not that there no fees. Sometimes they're marketed as being no fees with fixed index annuities, but there's not an external fee. It's a spread product. It's just like a checking account where the idea is the insurance company invests your money and is able to earn more on it than they pay out to you. And that's how they make money, when they can quote unquote say there's no fee, but there's not a fee. This advisor may be confusing variable annuities with fixed index annuities if they talk about there being high fees. There are surrender charges potentially, but if you're holding the annuity as a long-term proposition, which you should be, it's not meant to be a short-term investment, you don't ever have to pay those surrender charges. And so you're really not paying fees. The simple idea is if it's linked to the S&P 500, price returns, dividends excluded because it's based on financial derivatives, there'll be a floor and a cap. Suppose the floor is 0%. Suppose the cap is 8%. It means if the S&P, once you take dividends out, once the S&P price return is determined, if the market was down, you get 0%. If the market was up between 0 and 8%, you get the full gain at that point. Again, not with dividends, but you get the full price return. If the market was up more than 8%, you would be capped at, and you get an 8% interest for the payment for the year. Now, with that kind of structure, that can be competitive with bonds. And that's really what they should be compared to. It's not getting the full upside of the stock market for sure, but it's potentially giving you a return that's competitive with bonds. And you do also get the tax deferral, where you're not paying on those gains or interest credited until you take out of the annuity, which can be another way to help get a little bit of boost over taxable bonds, which every year you're paying taxes on the interest earned. And so at the end of the day, you want to compare that to other bond options. And yeah, I think there are no fee. I mean, sorry, no fee is not the right term here. There are no commission versions of fixed index annuities, which can allow for even higher caps relative to commission based. And so there are some competitive options out there, and definitely it deserves to be an option that people look at, especially without living benefits. So just for the underlying structured return, could be something to look at in the short-term buckets with time segmentation. And then if you do want to add a lifetime income benefit, now that's an optional benefit. There is a fee for the optional lifetime income benefit, but there's also a lifetime income benefit associated with that fee. And that can be another option to look at for people in income protection that are seeking a lifetime income source.
There you go. That's the clean answer. Here's the dirty answer. No, I think something for listeners to point out, which I think is key. Fixed index annuity that's not annuitized. So if it was annuitized, which at this point I'm not even sure if this advisor is picking up on all these things, effectively your answer still stands. If it is annuitized, then there's an extra fee for that part of the annuitization.
But then it just becomes an immediate annuity, and very few people ever annuitize.
No, but what I'm getting at is it's just, it's an insurance product is ultimately what I'm getting at. It's just a reverse life insurance product, and that's how it should be presented, not as an investment alternative, although the bonds is compelling. But what gets me here is philosophically. This is the response that you receive. Your advisor could be a nice person. I'm not, controlling for this person being a nice person or not. I don't like that answer that's giving to a client, because there's two things. At best, the person is a retirement income dilettante, which is not a good outcome. At worst, that person doesn't care where you're coming from, and it's just jamming into you what they think that you should do because that's what they would do. They're not taking into consideration the whole reason why we created the RISA, which is how do you want to source retirement income, and let's work around that. Because again, the underlying assumption is there are many credible strategies to get it right. It's not just the total return and that's it, which is what I'm going to assume this person is pushing to some extent. And I think that's the problem with this industry to some extent, is that there are many credible solutions. If you as a professional discount something and then just because it doesn't fit your business model, and then the way you discount it is just by saying, "Oh, that's full of crap. That's garbage. It's expensive. You don't get what they promised you. Whatever, whatever." I think that's lazy thinking. 100% lazy thinking, and it doesn't get you anywhere at the end of the day. The other piece is commission. You asked the question: is there a fee only option? Listen, we do McLean Asset Management. We're managing principals of McLean Asset Management. So we were a fee only shop for a long time, 20 years. We started introducing insurance products simply because of the writings that we've done. And by we, I mean Wade, where it shows this is credible. So we, as opposed to always referring it out, we just took it in house. So we can balance both of them. And I can say, hand over my heart, one is not inherently better than the other. At the end of the day, is what outcome is it solving for, and does it do it efficiently? Because what the fee only people won't say is, okay, here's a commission product and you're paying these huge fees, for the transaction, but you can make a strong case that paying a one-time commission is much cheaper than paying an advisor 1% for that earmarked amount of assets over 10 years, over 15 years, over something like that. So I think that's a game that's played a lot from a headline standpoint. But if you dig a little deeper, it really is what product is being offered, and does it effectively and efficiently solve what you're looking for. But in terms of your advisor, I think that's part of the problem with the industry, not part of the solution. Not the totality of his or her advice, but this particular point of view, I do quarrel with.
Yeah, I quarrel with you, sir. Oh, very good. Isn't that Romeo and Juliet?
I don't know. A rose by any other name smells sweet, right? Or whatever. All right, star-crossed lover. Why don't you read the last question here?
Yeah, okay. So 20 years ago in the financial industry, retiring with a house paid off was strongly recommended. We have Dave Ramsey, where I don't have all the words.
We should have a sound effect every time his name comes up. There's something like a clown's horn or something like that.
Yes. Dave Ramsey recommends getting a 15-year mortgage and then paying off, I guess, as fast as possible. On the other hand, Rick Edelman says to always carry a 30-year loan. How come paying off a mortgage at retirement is not talked about the same, or before retirement is not talked about the same as it was in the past? Okay, so basically, do you want to maintain your mortgage for as long as possible, or do you want to get it paid off? And in particular, do you want to enter retirement still having to make mortgage payments, or would you like to have that paid off before entering retirement? I think is a nice way to summarize that.
I think there's no right or wrong. It just goes back to what your style is. I mean, it's similar to the other one about discounting fixed index annuities. I think in the defense of these two folks, I think it's a matter of style, right? You want to maybe dig into that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that, right, if you're probability based, you're more likely to want to carry that mortgage because you view it as, well, my investments will earn a greater return that I'm paying on the mortgage. And so really the mortgage is a way to borrow to invest in the markets. So it's kind of like a negative bond where it's letting you accelerate and invest more by having that mortgage in place. And if you're probability based, you're kind of comfortable thinking that that's going to pay off for you. It will probably be the case that your portfolio will earn more than you're paying in interest on the mortgage. So you're getting an extra boost from that. If you're safety first, you're not going to be as comfortable with that approach. You feel more comfort having the mortgage paid off so that you're not leveraged. And in retirement, you don't want to have those fixed mortgage payments in the early retirement years, which actually increase sequence of returns risk because it requires a higher withdrawal rate when you're the most vulnerable to market volatility. And so there's more of a case of let's get this paid off, not have to worry about it, not have this fixed expense looming over our retirement. Now, one kind of caveat to that was if you got a mortgage 5-10 years ago and it's like 3.5% mortgage rate, right now you can pretty easily get safe short-term treasury bills or other kind of fixed income assets that will allow you to earn more than the mortgage rate. So you may want to, instead of just simply paying off the mortgage, you may want to keep money in a short-term fixed income asset that's yielding more than the mortgage rate and give yourself a little bit of extra boost from that. But if you're thinking more broadly about, no, I just want a more diversified investment portfolio, I believe stocks will grow faster than the mortgage interest payments. And so let's leverage the mortgage to invest more in the stock market. Whether or not you're comfortable with that really does depend on whether you're more probability based or more safety first.
That's a good point, and I think this goes. The flip side to that is obviously if your mortgage is higher than what the bonds are yielding, you may think about like speeding up paying off your mortgage. All things being equal. But the other way to look at this, and I'm gonna sort of put my Dave Ramsey hat on and Rick Edelman hat on. At the end of the day, I think Dave Ramsey speaks to an investor that's in the process of like getting out of debt and things along those lines, like financial budgeting. So, and being very fiscally disciplined because there's not a lot of wiggle room, and usually folks have gotten into trouble with debt, right? And so I can totally see why Dave Ramsey would find it prudent to instill a behavior in which they're paying off loans and not having debt because of what may have happened previously to his average listener, if you will. Right now, that's just me making assumptions that may not be tenable, but that's the vibe I get from the audience that he has. It's a most common denominator audience of Americans that are struggling getting out of debt. Right? Rick Edelman speaks more to the mass affluent. I don't know if that's the right word, but let's just say 250,000 of investable assets and up. Right, so they have a lot more flexibility. They're probably not dealing as much with debt reduction or managing those basic finances. So I can see why he would say something along the lines of, hey, you know what? Stocks for the long run, gun it, and just be paying this off. It's okay to carry this debt because over a 30-year horizon, you'll probably make more from the portfolio than you would have, otherwise. I think there's something to that, Wade, in terms of their advice is driven by who their audience members are as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's in the context of Dave Ramsey, he's not necessarily talking about getting the mortgage paid off before retirement specifically. It's just getting the not wanting to have debt as a more general concept.
Yeah, and I can totally see that. And that concludes this Q&A. We're 42 minutes in. If we did one more question, I know we'd go over. So in the interest of parsimony, we'll cut it there. What do you think, Wade?
Sounds good. And we'll continue with more of your questions in the next episode.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Catch you next week on Retire with Style.